Hi, I'm Tom, and this is a side split, and we got a new logo. Hello, cute little logo. This video is going to be about the American special and how it is, or should I say was, flawed. The special started off with it a bit. The idea was to create a booster vehicle that was separate, and the booster vehicle would return back to Earth and be reused. Now, I've heard that idea from somewhere. I can't put my finger on it. Oh, I know. Yeah, SpaceX did it. Right there. The winged orbiter would come back down to Earth after completing its mission, kind of like the space shuttle did. However, the study showed that the large boosters would be needing to be very expensive to be able to go up and then thrust again to come back down at the time to first of all design and second of all to do safely. Also, stuff like this does not happen. Like, if that happened, that'd be pretty bad. And it would also not even be landing like that. It'd be more landing horizontally. A bit more like a plane, like this, which is a video of an X-15.
Very tiny bit of wind from perhaps south and a little bit east, so it's not
Wrecked though it seemed.
Now, from what I've been able to gather, the pilot was okay there. But that was, well, he didn't die, and that was a very dangerous crash. But that's from what I gathered. If I am wrong, I will put that in. But if someone did die, thank you for your service. Now, the plan they came up with was also flawed because the Air Force wanted to fund the space shuttle. So they did. And the space shuttle was made larger. This is because they wanted to send certain things into orbit. And being larger meant they needed more fuel to get into orbit overall, and the Air Force wanted to launch, obviously, things like satellites for checking on enemies and stuff like that of the United States of America. Now, in 1972, it was very ambitious to come up with anything like the shuttle, and with the US Army/Air Force wanting it to be a certain size, it was expensive. And then with the Challenger disaster in 1986, they decided to pull their funding, the Army/Air Force, from NASA, which kind of left it crippled because, well, it was large enough because the Hubble Space Telescope fits almost perfectly inside the cockpit, like shown in the last video. And that makes it kind of obvious that that was not meant for that. It was more meant for looking at Earth, in fact. When it could be smaller to look at what it does. And with the funding's gone, this left NASA first of all low on funds, with a brass press image because of the crash. And they had a bad public image as well because of also the disaster. The space shuttle was very large, too expensive, but also too expensive to not be used. It was expensive to launch the space shuttle quite a lot. And it was used for 133 flights. Now, that's a lot of flights, and I really do mean a lot, because I've tried to do that in Kerbal Space Program, where I do every single shuttle launch, every single one, including the failed ones, and that takes a really long time. I'm probably going to do that again. Over on my Twitch, yes, I'm plugging my Twitch, errors_404, there'll be a link in the description, like normal. But these flights were really expensive, and that was mainly because the shuttle was too big and it needed more fuel. You know what was better, and I really like? The Braun shuttle, also known as Snowstorm/Blizzard. And that only had one mission, and it was every way better compared to the American space shuttle, and that upsets me not that that idea was not more utilized because it was only flown once. It was lighter, it was smaller, it provided the same task, it got into orbit perfectly fine, it could land, it was fine. But apparently the whole funding removed was a bad idea for Russia as well. Then the last space shuttle flight was on the 8th of July, 2011, and it was to deliver multi-purpose logic modules to the space station. And the Braun would probably have done this if it was obviously used. but it wasn't anymore. So back to the space shuttle anyway. The space shuttle was a good idea at the time. It was just not very well executed. If the space shuttle was created today, there would have been much better ideas about it because we would have had experience. And I believe if there was to create one today, they would do something more like an SST. And if they made it like that, I believe it would be a lot better. It would probably be a bit more expensive for the whole refueling, but you wouldn't have as much disposed. Because obviously with the space shuttle, you had 2 booster rockets and a giant orange fuel tank. I'm going to call it orange. But alas, that won't be happening anytime soon with an SSTO because they're mostly using all that funding towards missions to Mars, and an SSTO will take a really long time to develop. Really hard to do interplanetary movements, so moving from Earth to Mars or to Jupiter or Saturn or Uranus. It'll be expensive because of the amount of stuff they'd need to do, unless they use a lot of gravity assists, and that'll take a really long time to get everything correct. Like hundreds of years, most likely. And that means for now we're just going to settle with this KSP's SSTOs, which I should put a clip in. Me doing that if I have got enough time. And that would make space travel cheaper, but then again, so would a space elevator, and I believe that's something some countries are working on right now. Giant space elevator up to space, which would also be useful. The space shuttle also used a lot of fuel, as shown in this little video.
Start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff.
It was also really loud, as also shown in this video. And being really loud, it used a lot of fuel, and it was not totally inefficient, but obviously a lot of that energy was turned into sound, as you can see. A lot of it was turned into light, but also a lot of it was put into thrust, and I believe if it was more optimized, I believe that would be more useful today. I believe if it was more optimized, it would definitely be more of a thing that would be used more from mainstream. And as you can see in all these pictures, the space shuttle didn't change a lot. There's just a nice profile view of the Columbia, the Challenger, the Discovery, the Columbia, the Challenger, the Discovery, the Atlanta, and the Endeavour. And it was a good idea. I'm not going to lie. There was not a lot of change, though, over time. I think that's something they could have done a bit more if they'd done some more change. There was a lot of changes on the internals, but not very much visible, and that's fine. But it was still the same basic premise on how they did it, and after the accident in 2003 of Columbia, they had to change one thing, because if you notice the little black part on the Columbia, that was replaced with heating internal to the wing, because that was foam, and the foam fell off, kind of sending it to its doom, killing the 7 astronauts, and they will be missed. They will be missed a lot. That was when I was 3 that happened. I actually watched that. My mum has videos of me sat in front of something watching that. I don't know what it was in front of, but I used to watch that as a kid. And we can talk about those changes later on, but today I just wanted to talk about why it was kind of flawed and why it could be improved on. So I'm going to have to go. So please hit that sub button if you like this video. It really helps me out. Also, if you like this video, it lets me know that you are kind of on board with what I'm doing, and that really also helps me out again. Alright, thank you everyone that was watching. Hope you didn't mind this longer video. Bye.